Were you with a narcissist? Were you with a person that over a period of time you fell in love with, or you got involved with, or you got to the place where you made that decision to get married? Maybe you went through giving vows, maybe you went to the courthouse, whatever it might be, you got to that place and you might have said for better or worse, but really a lot of times it ended up being for worse and for worse. A lot of times being with a narcissist doesn't really get better, and a lot of people scratch their heads wondering, why would a narcissist even get married to start off with? Like, what's the point? If you're going to be with someone and you know you're doing it out of a manipulation, or you know you're doing it and you're not going to be happy with that other person, then why even bother? Why even bother getting married? Well, we're going to dive into a couple of those things that I want to bring up to your attention, and also share a little bit of a couple things from my perspective of why I got married, and give you some tips as we go through it as well. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness, growth, healing, and change. That's what Raw Motivations does. If you haven't had a chance to be able to follow us on any of the other platforms, then check out TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and also Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, all that kind of stuff. They're everywhere, okay? Just look up Raw Motivations. Love to have you follow there. If you want to be a part of a community, we've been building a community that started to take off leaps and bounds, and that's called the NARCAP. NARCAPP. It stands for Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Community, because you need people around you to help you grow, heal, and change. There's a lot of people that are involved in that community that are intentional about trying to help you grow and change, because they are on the same path as well. You can take courses to learn about narcissism. You can track your no contact. You can journal your growth. You can journal your truth. And you can also log in for weekly lives, assignments to work on different things, and monthly coaching where we bring in people from all across the globe to help you on your growth journey. So check out NARCAP. Go to narcap.com, narcapp.com, narcap.com. If you want to listen to the wife's perspective, I'd love to have you interact with myself and my wife, Kayla Taylor, as we have a podcast that we put out on Apple Podcasts called Trauma, Drama, and Life. A lot of times people want to hear from her perspective. Well, we put that into a podcast for you, so feel free to check that out. You can DM us or you can email us different ideas or thoughts that you want to hear in that, and we'll try to get back to you on the podcast as well. Last thing real quick, because if you want to talk to me sometime to either work through breaking free from a trauma bond, rewiring your mindset, getting through the detox phase, and getting to a place where you set up good, healthy boundaries, would love to talk to you. Go to rawmotivations.com, click the link down below. Either way, click on one-on-ones. Would love to be able to talk to you and help you in that process. So anyways, talking today about the idea of marriage with a narcissist. So why even get married? Like I mentioned in the beginning, like, why not just leave that person alone? It'd be a lot easier, right? It'd be a lot easier if narcissists just stayed single. Like, there's no point of, like, why would they ever want to get married? Well, narcissists typically have a couple reasons of why they get married. I've written down 4 today. A couple things that I think the reasons why narcissists actually do get married. So one of them is for control. Okay, simple as that, to be able to have control of another person. We see this sometimes when a narcissist wants to define the relationship, or they want to move in together, or they want to have kids together, but we also see it with marriage. A lot of times a narcissist is about the control. Typically, the control is the control of the mask. Well, sometimes the mask is going to look best when it has a person in the control of them. So the idea of, hey, let me find someone, let me be with someone, because I want to make sure I lock in that supply. I want to make sure I lock that in so that I don't lose that validation. I don't lose that person. And I'm able to say, look, this is what I got. Sometimes they do that not just because of control, but also because of money and status. Again, going back to the control of the mask, sometimes it's about, how do I need to look to other people? How do I need to make myself look to society, to my workplace, to my family, anything like that? Let me get with this person to have either that status or to have that money aspect. Maybe to see, what can I get out of it? How can I get something that I want out of this relationship? Well, maybe the easiest way is to get married so that I get their money, or so I get their inheritance, whatever it might be. We see a lot of times control, money, status. Sometimes you have the idea that narcissists are obsessed with different aspects, so like success, power, brilliance, but also ideal love. And so there's the idea there of, like, let me get with someone and have the best relationship ever. You see this with a lot of cheaters being like, oh, the grass is green on the other side. Let me go over there. Let me be with this person because this is now the one. Now this is the one. Now this is the one. All back and forth. And sometimes you have a narcissist that'll get locked into the idea of like, let me find the perfect person. Let me find the perfect person that's going to make me feel better, because that's all they're looking for. And so the idea of like, maybe this relationship that's broken and is awful, maybe it can get fixed by going to the next person. And maybe that one can get fixed by going to the next person. Always searching for that ideal love. That way I can find the perfect person to ultimately make myself feel, look, experience life in a better way. The fourth one that I have here is a lot of times narcissists get married in order to blend into society and just to look normal. Or a lot of times I'll say in my videos to look more human. And people are like, wait, like a narcissist doesn't think that they're human? Not really. Like a lot of times they think that they're perfect and above everybody else. So it's like, well, let me figure out how I can blend in a little bit more. Sometimes you'll see a narcissist that gets married just because it's the next thing to do and it appears good with society and with the relationships that they have already. A lot of times people ask about that when it's in terms of me. However, why did I get married? Why did I actually go through that? And for me, it's partly the two aspects, the ideal love and also to blend in with society. You know, I partially got married because I also thought it was the next best thing to do. It just seemed like this is the normal step. Like normally you go through life, you date, you get engaged, you get married, you move on. Like that was just how like life was portrayed to me a lot of times. So I was like, well, if I'm going to blend in, if I'm going to make it look like I'm a normal person, well, I need to do normal things. And that's kind of what transpired with that. So to give you like an idea, like I dated in high school, I dated in college, you know, different things like that just kept going in a cycle. Well, in college, I got involved with someone that I got to the place where I almost got engaged. Like I was like getting closer. So I dated several times, then I dated someone and almost got engaged. The dad said no, like she dodged that bullet, like all that kind of stuff. It was a crazy relationship anyways. All my exes were crazy, right? So like almost got engaged to that person and then that fell through. Ended up graduating from college, getting involved in Chick-fil-A, met my wife at Chick-fil-A, we got engaged, we got married. It was like progressive. So it's like, you know, do something with some person, do a little bit more, get engaged, get married. Like it was all progressive. And so for me, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Now, with everything that I've been going through and with all the life that I've experienced so far, what I was doing is I was in a cycle. I didn't want to admit that. I didn't want to see that. And oftentimes I ignored it pretty heavily. But the idea was I'm in a cycle of always going from girl to girl, from person to person, like time and time again. And I thought that getting married, that ideal love part, would fix it. But unbeknownst to me, it wasn't the other person that was supposed to fix my problems. It was me. And so as a result, when I got married, it didn't fix the cycle. And it just ended up happening more and more and more inside the marriage, hence being affairs. Well, maybe you've been married and that relationship has turned bad and you feel like you're left with the aspect that it's all your fault. A lot of people feel that way when they've gotten out of a narcissistic relationship or they're in that relationship and they're not sure, what do I actually do? Well, one of those aspects that a lot of times happens is the idea that you're not allowed to tell other people of like what's going on in the relationship. Like you're not allowed to tell people that there's something bad in the relationship. Like you're married to a narcissist, it's starting to get like really awful. You're not allowed to say anything. And that's where narcissists isolate you and make sure that you get stuck telling everybody and showing to everybody that the relationship's perfect when in reality, you're slowly dying inside. A lot of times when you're in those relationships, you're also wondering like, what is actually real? Like, what am I supposed to believe? And you develop cognitive dissonance, holding two opposing thoughts. You develop that and you start wondering, like, I don't know which to believe. And it builds with the intermittent reinforcement, a trauma bond that leaves you stuck. Another thing with like getting married and getting into a relationship with someone who is a narcissist is a lot of times it creeps in really slowly and then ramps up. We see this especially a lot of times with covert narcissists where people get married and then they don't really notice that anything's wrong because the abuse happens so slightly and ends up moving up faster and faster. Because a lot of times you'll see in narcissists that they marry you to trap you, to lock you in, to be able to get that money or the image or the things that they want, or to be fixed or become across more human, whatever it might be. A lot of times you'll have a narcissist that ends up wanting to do that to control you. And I want to let you know that if you're stuck in one of these relationships, one, understand the majority of times you were already duped into it. It wasn't something that you walked into being like, I know this person's going to abuse me, so give yourself some grace. Because otherwise it's easy to use the negative self-talk and beat yourself up about stuff that's happened in the past or that's brought you to this place. Know that probably like growing up, you wanted to get married or you thought that that was going to be a good thing. Just because you got with an abusive person doesn't mean that concept was bad. Doesn't mean that where you are now isn't what you originally wanted. It's just you didn't realize that it was going to come with all the abuse and all the trauma that it did. So be really careful getting involved with someone that maybe you see the red flags, or maybe you're stuck in the marriage and you're like, I'm trying to leave. Well, part of this is to let you know that, hey, I see you and I understand because I've been there, because I've done that. And there's a lot of people that'll see this even in the comments and in the NARC app and different sections that can be able to help support you going through this because of the fact that you're not crazy, you're not alone, and you're not hopeless, even though it feels like it when you're stuck in a marriage with a narcissist. We work with people every single day to try to help get them free from those toxic relationships, get free to be able to have custody of their kids, and get free so that mentally they're not trapped and emotionally they're not trapped for the rest of their life, but they can actually break that trauma bond, live free, become happy, healthy, healed, and whole.